if you're joining, could you please let me know if the audio is working now? Okay, so hi. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at this. So apparently that didn't really work as it did on my screen, because my screen actually looked and sounded pretty good when I tested it this afternoon. But unfortunately, when the internet is involved and everything needs to go live, it doesn't want to do that. So, een goede avond, Daniel. No, Dan. I don't know if is Dan short for Daniel, or if there's anything else that it could be short for. A watercolorist. I don't know if you want to share it here, but I don't know your real name except for a watercolorist, which is, you know, a good name. Daniel, or Daniel in Dutch, is actually a very old family name of mine, which has been used for centuries until my parents stopped using it. I'm kind of looking in what to make. I'm just going to show you the dragon blood again. This is it actually looks like blood, and that's very interesting. In a video I did, a very short video I did a while back on my Instagram for my Pigment Fact Friday, I actually set this on fire outside, and you know, dragon's blood, when it's set on fire, it's yeah, you know why it's called dragon's blood if you see that. Could you melt some mineral pigment? I can absolutely do that. Yes, let's just do that. Which one? Yeah, it's Daniel is it's not like a family name as your last name, but it was a name that's been used from father to son, from, you know. Is there something you do not own? Unfortunately, yes. And it's very frustrating, since Roman Small has some pigments that I cannot get my hands on, and it's yeah. I wanna have some pigments from their line, and not just paint. I wanna have some pigments from their line. But mineral wise, just tell me. No, Daniel is spelled the exact same way. Apart from the fact that there's like 2 dots on the E. Amethyst. No, I don't have amethyst. Solidite I do have. But amethyst isn't really a pigment that is well suited for watercolors. Daniel, no, Dan, shall we tell him about it, or is everyone aware of something that happened a while back on Instagram? Maybe this is not the time and place. I don't know. Dan knows what I'm talking about, right? When we're talking about mineral pigments and pigments that aren't really... Yeah. The DSBS, yes, that's the one. Does everyone know about that? Apparently you do. Yeah, good. Yeah, so amethyst is not the same as PV23. Maybe we should tell them. I don't know. I actually just saw on a second-hand website that someone was selling Daniel Smith paint in a pan. They just pushed it out of the tube into pans, and they sold it for the same price as a tube. But they can fill a pan like with, they can fill, I think, 3-4 half pans with a tube. So you know, you can always do that and buy a 3D printer off the profit. So what I'm going to do now, this is my Fra Angelico blue, my most purified lapis lazuli that I could make. And I'm going to make a swatch of ultramarine blue as well. And I'm just going to do that live here with you, since let this live just be a kind of an introduction to something that I'm planning to make a video series about. So I made this into that, and I'm very, very proud of that. Let me have a look. What I want to show you is something that I like doing. I like to experiment with things, and I like to try things out. Okay, Sergio, let me just read that just slowly. I think I kind of get it, but it does sound. Yeah, I think I get what you're trying, or what you're saying, what the saying says. Ultramarine violet PV15. Let me just put a little bit more pigment on there. You probably already know what I'm going to do, right? Or are you not? Don't you? I don't know what it just said. You know, do you not know? Ultramarine pink, PR259. I'm actually looking for ultramarine blue. Not that I lost it or anything, but I am swatching. Yes, that's that. Yeah, I can't deny that I'm swatching, but can you guess what for? You probably can't, because I didn't actually share anything yet. I have an ultramarine blue over here, which wasn't finished yet, so I'll just confiscate these pens from my drying rack. And this is always one of my favorite colors. When you wet the pan, this is almost black in the pan when it dries, but when you wet the pan, it just shines. Just getting a bit more pigment on the paper. Right, that, okay. So, 3 ultramarines. add a fourth one. I'm not really sure which paper this is. This is a Fabriano paper, but I'm not quite sure, so I will get back to that, okay? I will look it up for you. And as a piece de résistance, ultramarine green. Which I am swatching way too heavily, and this is really a waste of an extinct pigment. I'm sorry about this, guys. Well, anyway, there you see it. Ultramarine green. There you go. Damn it. There was a lot of pigment. I could have used like it's. Why is this bigger? Why? I think my enthusiasm when ultramarine green just hits my brush. Like, there you go. I have. There's still some on my plate. I can just literally. Let me just. I'm just going to completely. This is. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about this, guys. I will just fill the entire piece of paper with the paint that is on my slab right now here, because, you know, why not waste a piece, a beautiful pigment like this, right? Bam, there you go. Okay, you can forgive me for this one. It is ultramarine green, yes. It's a very old version, a very old pigment version of ultramarine green, and as you can probably will tell, this might separate because it's I think it's exposed to some sort of acid in the past. It's not a very stable one, let me just say it like that. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, Crema still sells them, right? It's well, to be honest, I'm just going to really be honest with you. This is an extinct pigment. It was part of my extinct pigment project, and it is really not a special color at all. I said it. Special on its own, right? Like, it's special because it's not made anymore. But, and I'm going to say it too boldly, this is basically, chemically, this is basically just an unfinished version of this one. Alright, so, and yeah, yeah, okay, no, absolutely. Sergio, that's why I've given the ultramarine green such a large surface area, because, you know, it needs to shine, right? It has a right to all the paper and such. That's Dan, I have to agree with you. That's why they're discontinued. Same goes for quinacridone gold. To be honest, it's a very special pigment. It's really something, but it's not something we can't live without, right? If you would say, okay, quinacridone magenta, for instance, if you take that away, obviously, you have a PV, also quinacridone, PV19 version that could replace it. Maybe PV55, quinacridone violet, but for the magenta, PR 122. Yeah, I don't really agree with you, a watercolorist. Yintico, yes. Maybe not. I don't know. I really like it. Yinmin has properties that you know, other colors just don't. No, Sergio, you can absolutely say that. This is Yinmin next to Ultramarine Pink. So it is more of a red, less of a pink, and more granulating. So yeah, I don't know. It's same for Yinmin. Yes, it looks like a combination between cobalt blue and ultramarine blue, but yeah. Well, it reflects all the UV rays, right? So in a technical, from a technical point of view, Yinmin is quite valuable if it wasn't that expensive. From an artist point of view, yeah, you're absolutely right. So why am I doing this? And I'm just waiting till this one is drying and this enormous slab of ultramarine green is drying as well. Paolo, people like new stuff and it's exciting to get new pigments. Absolutely right. I've done quite some effort to get my hands on. Is it infrared? Is it not? Okay, I'm sorry about that. Infrared. I've done quite some effort to get my hands on Yintico as a pigment. And I actually really like. I enjoy making it. As you saw my in my live a few days ago. I like the pigment. And I'm actually quite happy that I have it. Right, that I've worked with it. No, absolutely, you're absolutely right. Sorry, you know, other side of the spectrum, infrared. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm using the back of my brush, a little bit of lemon juice. I want you to just look at the spot where I'm placing it. Just look what happens with that is still wet. Should I just do a wet and wet? Let's do a wet and wet. Let's see what that does. Oh, that's already quite wet. Am I going to really put lemon juice on ultramarine green? Apparently I am. Yes, I've just did it. Yeah, I grow a personal lemon tree here in my studio next to my 3D printers and my vacuum chamber. Yeah, so you know that's it. The nasty thing about what I'm just doing right now here is that the smell of sulfur is getting enhanced by what I'm doing. Well, it's a small vacuum pot for making molds and stuff, but it's not really a chamber. So I just put a drop of lemon juice on my Angelico. As you can see, ultramarine green, like I said, it's quite unstable. It reacts very quickly. Ultramarine violet, you can see the paling, like it's getting paler, happening here. This one spreads out a bit, was still too wet, this one as well. But you can see the effect that it has, right? Also on the Fra Angelico here, eventually this will happen, but a lot less fast, a lot slower than it happens with the other ultramarines. So all synthetic and natural. So this is one indicator that you can use at home to have a look, you know, if you're working with pure ultramarine. It's not if it gets yellow, because everything will, or pale, because maybe this was a little bit too much wet and wet, but you can see like it's getting yellow here, and this one, if this one dries, I will put it like a drop down there, but this one gets pale yellow as well, same as the ultramarine green, quite quickly. When you're in doubt if you have an ultramarine pigment, and this is for people who are interested in making watercolors, if you have an ultramarine pigment that is genuine ultramarine, just to come back to the mineral side of the story, put a drop of yellow on a swatch, lemon juice on a swatch, and see how fast it'll turn yellow. Not if it turns yellow, because eventually this will get paler. Maybe not as, like, this is highlighter yellow, not as fluorescent as this one. It's already, I don't know if it wants to focus, it's already doing something. Well, let me just put a light next to it. It's already doing something. Okay, let me catch up with the chat. No, the smell isn't that bad. So don't need to open a window, especially not with the weather outside. Yeah, so that lapis lazuli is already getting a little bit paler as well. But like I said, not as, you see the yellow shining through here as well, not as aggressively as these all do, especially the ultramarine here. Paolo, you can check out the video I have on quinacridone gold if you haven't already. It is a nice pigment, but I think, but you know, please also correct me if I'm wrong. Looking at how ultramarine as a pigment is made, this is the one that's like earliest in the process. So I think because this has like, yeah, I really can't tell actually. In my mind, I think that, you know, it makes sense because of, I don't know why actually. Yeah. What do you mean the current PL49, which is quinacridone deep gold? What do you mean? What do you mean with that? I don't know what you mean. So this is quinacridone gold pigment. Yeah, well, you get the point, right? Not that much left anymore. I have some laying around like there that's not in the jar, but I want to keep that for, I don't know, when people really are in need for it. Oh, there are more versions of PL49. There were more versions. Same goes for PL48. I have 3 or 4 versions of PL48 here in my studio. So yeah, there used to be one manufacturer that had the last batch, and yes, Daniel Smith bought all of it, same as PL48. So Daniel Smith bought all of that as well, which is a shame. But yeah, it is what it is. So, which pigment to make? Which mineral pigment? Any votes? But from which brand are the two quinacridone golds? Oh wow, that is a lot. Yeah, but the quinacridone gold and deep gold are mixes of them now, so with one they just add more PO48 I think, or only PO48, and the other one they mix in nickel azo yellow, so it's not PO49 anymore, is it? I'm not sure what pigment to choose. Someone that starts with the first letter of your name. Well, that's an L. My name is Laurens in Dutch, but you know you can say Lawrence. That will be lapis, right? Or anything lazurite. Are we really doing that? We're really going for the lapis lazuli? Well, yeah. Let me just. I can quickly. That sounds weird. That sounds like I don't want to sound like quickly making it, but I can. This is my Fra Angelico lapis lazuli, which I do not mill. If you're asking why, check out my video on making this on my YouTube. I want to tell you why, but you know, just if you're wondering why I'm not milling this, ask me. If you already know, good. If you want to watch the video, maybe even better. Yeah, that guy from Daniel Smith said, like, they had enough for decades, right? And this is what happens when you put lemon on it. So there you see it turning that bright yellow. Yeah. I think they'll run out quicker since they still use PO48 for their mixes, and I saw that Royal Talents stopped doing that when it was announced that PO48 was discontinued. Yeah, Sergio, the more you process it, the blender it gets, but you know, I'm not using pressure with this. I mulled the pigment when I was making it. So before I dried the pigment, I processed it, I mulled it until it was the right consistency, until, you know, I didn't mull it for too long, since then it gets more pale. But that consistency is something I want to have before I start making paint in it. So my entire batch of pigment is mulled the same way. So I can guarantee the same amount of blue with every batch that I make. Like, it does depend per batch because it's quite a labor intensive process. It's quite an expensive pigment to make as well. I have one full pan over here that I need to top off. This is the second batch that I have after the video. So the video I made about it was the first batch. This is the second batch I made. No, Siri. Why is Siri always thinking of talking to her? But for that second batch, I actually didn't think about, you know, filming it. I would have, if I would have known that I was going to use YouTube more seriously, I would have made a horizontal video instead of a vertical video, which I did for my Instagram. Which is a shame, but I'll do that when the weather is a bit better as well. I can break the lapis lazuli in pieces outside, and I can process the pigment. When the weather is nicer, or I can find a laboratory, I'm also going to make a new video about Paris green, or in this case Schweinfurter Grün, since that's what it says on the label. I found quite a large bag of it in an old monastery a while back, and they used to paint their ornaments with Schweinfurter Grün, which is the arsenic green pigment. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. I saw that someone was selling pigments online, and I asked them what they had. He said, well, all sorts of stuff. They had buckets of ultramarine blue, literal buckets, like all. I think they were buckets for like processed beans or something for food. 10-liter buckets full of ultramarine blue pigment, which I didn't bring along because they were quite dirty. No, not really on the inside, but especially on the outside. And I need to take everything in my car. And Ultramarine blue, it wasn't that old, by the way. It was from the 70s, I think. So it wasn't like a special batch of, ooh, that's the first Ultramarine blue. But then I looked around and I found some alizarin crimson. I found some really good ochres, quite a lot of it, and the Schweinfurter Grün came out of a big travel case, like the wooden crates, and I opened it and I saw all like paper bags, like this big paper bags with handwritten labels on it that kind of fell apart. And that guy just opened it and said, "Let me have a look what's in it." And he opened it, and I saw, like, with the very fancy old handwriting with ink, Schweinfurter Grün on it, and I just immediately stopped and said, "Don't open it." Yeah, so I put everything in a bag. I checked it, or in a plastic case, which I sealed with tape, and I made sure that there's like nothing could spill. But I checked it when I was at home, and it was the exact same green as the Paris green that I already had, a little bit more vibrant. So it was quite well stored, and I'm very happy with that. It's not particularly happy that I have a couple of kilograms of arsenic green in my studio, but I locked it away since there's a big lock on that cupboard. Yeah, it was kind of a groundkeeper that helped me, Dan, and he didn't really know anything about pigments. So he said, "Oh, that's green. Oh, that's a red. It's a lead red. Like, there's lead on it. Literally, this big lead written on it. So that's kind of a giveaway for that's poisonous inside, or at least harmful." Also, there was like a skull on it with the cross. So there was signs for him that he should have seen. But so in the meantime, these are the ultramarines. That's just highlighter yellow. Same as with the purple, by the way. The violet. Well, for the Paris green, you can buy arsenic testing kits, like even on Amazon, I think. So you can just test it. You can mix it with cadmium yellow, which is a sulfuric. Are you both saying heart? Oh yes, you are. It really did. Yeah, Paolo, you probably, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably know better ways. But you can add cadmium yellow to Paris green, since the sulfur in cadmium would darken the pigment. Why cadmium yellow? Why not ultramarine blue? Since it was, it's also a pigment with sulfur in it. Because the blue will darken the green, whereas the yellow should lighten it. So the reaction should be more clear if you would do that test with a yellow instead of a color that is going to make the green darker, because it's quite a teal-ish yellow. Let me just put it like that. I think that's the right way to put it. Yeah, there's some scientific conversation going on here. I like that. I think it fits my style of working. I'm sorry about that. Kind of falling over my own words here. I'm just curious, since I'm chatting with you and we're doing this. Yeah, that would ask for a lot of testing. I mean, you can ask for a Raman spectrometry test, but still sometimes you would need more than that. But X-ray, yeah. Which kind of pigment are you talking about? I will look up the paper for you. But first, let me put some lemon on dirty blue, since it already also contains ultramarine. So in the meantime, when we have this ultramarine party going on here, oh, nothing. Okay, I thought, maybe since you were, it sounded like a very specific question. What's happening? You see how quickly that turns yellow. So this is how you can just at home test, if it's ultramarine. Why was this important for me? Kind of like ABBA. Wow, that's bad. Need to check what's going on. Oh, the washing machine is spilling some water, I think. It is. Well, the yellow ochre does shine through quite a lot, doesn't it? This is a very golden yellow. It's... Okay, anyway, just let me get back to what I was saying. Why am I talking about this, and why am I doing this? We were talking about the minerals, and I made the lapis lazuli, the Angelico pigment. I just made it on the stream. I'm showing you what acid does to ultramarines. I'm now putting a drop of lemon juice on a dry spot over there. I'm going to do that with the green as well, to show you live what it does in washes and mass tone. Let me just do it correctly, right? And this is a weird yellow. I've never done this before, by the way. So we're talking about minerals. I was talking about lapis. I was talking about making this. I was talking about how can you find out if a pigment contains only the right stuff. This is going way much slower than this is, because this is almost the same level of paleness as this one is, but this has already been laying around here for half an hour. Well, this is getting more pale and pale every second, as is this. This is everything here. Because I found a lapis lazuli pigment in my search for putting it in my shop, and seeing if is this the handmade version, is it worth it, or are there parties who sell something comparable for a way cheaper price, and yeah, there are companies that sell a first grade, high grade for Angelico. It's a commercial name, so pigment, and I found one that was very cheap, and there was, I'm getting distracted by the chat, 1.5K for PV33 oil paint. Seriously, I'm going to make oil paint. I'm getting rid of gum arabic. I have a big bottle of linseed oil, or what is it? I'm going to make oil paint. Yeah, I chose the wrong side of the business. 1.5K, seriously. I'm planning to sell my half pence for like 20-25 euros. Maybe not even. I'm not even sure. Like, yeah, but still too. Wow, that's weird. Okay, anyway, you can all see, like, this is yellow, right? This is this was washed away because of the wet and wet, but this turns quite yellow, or this still isn't as yellow or as pale as this is. This is just absolutely bonkers. Okay, I was looking into different lapis lazuli pigments, and I tested them all. Right, I made paint out of all of them. Literally felt them between my fingers. Is it adding something? Right, a mineral pigment, and people who use mineral paint will know this. It's the structure that makes it special, right? If a mineral pigment is as fine and as vibrant as the synthetic thing, there's just no use of using it, because of, it really doesn't make a difference chemically for lapis lazuli. And if you have nothing of the texture or feel of the original or the real thing, then why use it? And I came across one pigment that was so unbelievably fine and so unbelievably blue, and I felt it between my fingers, and I did everything I did with the others. I put a drop of lemon on it because I wasn't sure, and it turned yellow just like that. So I'm going to make a series of videos about that. I'm not sure if I will say and tell which company that pigment is from. I'm not really sure how to do that in a way that I want. Yeah, it's kind of a weird position I'm in, I think. Okay, back to the chat. What's the next part of paint making course going to be about? I'm going to I'm going to make the binder. So I'm going to make the binder, and quickly after that I'm going to show you the video about making, working with your first pigment. checking it without like fancy tools like the Hagman gauge. Just using whatever we have at hand. But for how to properly fill those half pans, what problem do you come across, Sergio? So not so much about how to fill them, but more. Oh, that sounds like a recipe thing. So in my case, I had that as well. I know what you're trying. I know you're trying to say, Hackman. um, for me, especially, it was the quinacridone magenta that was cracking quite a bit at the beginning. But for me, it was just adding a bit more pigment. I was afraid it got shiny or it got, you know. You do not use honey. You can do it without honey. More glycerin will also change the feel of your paint. If the pigment doesn't rub off and you're happy with how the paint feels, I think a little bit more binder. Just try a very small batch first and then just a couple drops more binder until you find that balance of you know, not being bronzing on the page when you're swatching, and if you're already at the point of it doesn't rub off, just try to add a bit more before it starts showing. I think it's a matter of adding just a bit more binder to your pigment. Quinacridones are quite thirsty pigments, so and quite tinting as well. So you can use quite a bit of binder before it'll show. Yeah, I think that's the only thing you need to do. If it isn't, we can figure it out. But for me, sorry, for me that sounds like that. Feel of the paint. Well, the consistency. If you put a wet brush and want to load it with pigment, but you have too much of a certain ingredient in it, it can feel syrupy. It can feel tacky. It can feel almost like a balm instead of paint, water filled with pigment. You know, you actually want to have something that just comes off your brush like water, and not something that's tacky. Yeah, gloopy. Alright guys, since I have no idea what to make next, I think I'm just calling it a night. I can show you, but that's just, you know, why not? What ultramarine green looks like under the spectrometer. That is definitely a green. And if we compare that to, well, let's just make a quick. Can Can we compare? I'm not sure if this is, since the app has changed, I'm not sure if this is the right place to be. Here we are. Okay, so let's first do a bit of this. New session, new reference, scan. My reference will be, okay, my reference is the Angelico blue. And my comparison will be synthetic ultramarine blue. As you can see, they both reflect kind of the same wavelengths. Synthetic is does reflect absolutely more blues. It's way more saturated. It's, yeah, that's the thing of the pigment. And that red peak, yeah, that is interesting. That's why, you know, ultramarines are, you know, considered to be warm blues. Sergio, see you. Thank you very much for joining. Sorry about the previous stream that you know, kind of lagged and had bad sound. I will just stick to this. But hopefully see you next time. I will try to plan my lives in the future. And I will have a look what we're going to do next in the next stream. I want to make it something interesting. It'll be World Pigment Day this, please correct me if I'm wrong, Tuesday. No, Wednesday, 22nd. Wednesday. So we might do a stream then, but we'll have a look. I'm kind of, you know, off to bed as well. It's 11 in the evening here, and my kids will wake up quite early knowing them. So see you soon. Thanks for joining, everyone, and thank you for the very nice chat and everyone that was involved. Hope you like, you know, me ruining a perfectly good swatch of ultramarine green, because I did, and I hope you liked the surprised, you know, ochre that we had there. Weird stuff. That's why I like it. Bye everyone, have a great evening, and see you soon.